Welcome to quadratic equation, new quadratic formula. Looking at the title of this lesson, you might be wondering that is there any other formula apart from the usual quadratic formula? Yes, there is a new formula which I'm sure you might not have come across before now. So that is why I've decided to show you the new quadratic formula. I just label it to be a new quadratic formula because it is rare. I hardly see it, people using it, and it exists. So maybe you don't know before now the formula exists. So I'm happy to share with you. Okay, so let's go. At the end of this lesson, learner is expected to be able to use the new quadratic formula to solve the quadratic equation. Okay, I'm Abdullah Falade. Once again, I'm remain your mathematics instructor. Before we move on to the new quadratic formula, we shall discuss about the issue of quadratic formula. In our previous video, where we discussed solving quadratic equation using completing the square method, I gave an assignment, DIY, do it yourself, and part of what I gave is for you to use completing the square method to find the solution of the standard form of quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So if you have been able to do that, I think you'll be able to come up with a formula which is the usual quadratic formula. So to get the usual quadratic formula, we need to solve the standard form of quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 using completed the square method. So we shall follow all the 5 steps involved in solving quadratic equation using completing the square method. So step 1, we need to transfer the constant term to the other side of the equation, which we did here. You can see that's what we did. We have ax squared plus bx equals minus c because I've already transferred the constant term plus c to the other side of the equation. So the second step, can you remember? You need to divide through by the coefficient of the quad term. In this sense, in this context, the coefficient of x squared is a, so you divide through by a. Are you with me? Yes, you can see that now. So by the time you divide through, you have this. You can see a cancel a, that's why we have x squared plus b x over a equals minus c over a. So the next thing, step 3, add to both sides. Half square coefficient of midterm is step 2. So the coefficient of x in this step 2 is b over a. You know, b over a times x is bx over a. So b over a is the coefficient of the midterm. So we need to find half of it, half of b over a, close the bracket, everything is square. So let's go. You can see 1 over 2 times plus b over a. Please be careful. Whatever be the sign should go along with it. Okay? In this case, we have plus b over a as the coefficient of x. What does what I mean by coefficient of midterm? So if it is minus, please try as much as possible to put a sign there. Okay? That's why I put plus 1 over 2 times plus b over a close bracket square. And I did the same thing at the right side of the equation. So when you simplify further, this will give b over 2 everything bracket square. Still have the positive side of it. Yes, still have positive side. And I also did the same. You can see at the right side I have the positive side of it. And the next step, which is step 4, is to factorize completely. You factorize the left hand side, and by doing that, using that trick, you pick the unknown variable in consideration, which is x plus b over 2a. Close everything and square it. Okay, you can see, and at the right hand side we have what we have here. So you can also simplify further. At the right hand side, open this, we have b squared over 4a squared. So you're trying to find that, simplify that further. So you find the LCM at the denominator, that's 4a squared. A in 4a squared, that is 4a e, so 4a multiplied by minus c, that's 4ac, plus 4a squared and 4a squared, that is 1 that is b squared, that is b squared. So it's interesting. So the last step is for you to take the square root of both sides. By the time you take the square root of both sides, this is what you have here. So, and the square root sign will go away with the square sign, and from there you'll be able to get what we have here. So the square root sign, whenever we have a square root sign, you know it goes with plus or minus, and we can rearrange this to be b squared minus 4ac. So the square root of 4a squared is going to give us 2a. So that's why we didn't bother to have the square root below again. So trying to simplify further, you will generate, so by the time plus b over 2a go to the other side of the equation to meet this, and you have minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, everything divided by 2a. So the division sign also covers this minus b. So whenever you are using this formula, please be careful. Make sure you have a line that cover from minus b down, okay? So this is the usual quadratic formula we are familiar with, okay? So let's look at an example of how we can apply the usual quadratic formula. So solving 3x squared plus 4x minus 7 equals 0. You can see this, our a is 3, b is plus 4, c is minus 7. So the next thing is to use the formula x is equals to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4a everything over 2a, which is our usual quadratic formula. So by the time you substitute for a, b, c, you can see minus b, which is equals to minus times plus, which is minus 4, plus or minus square root of 4 squared is 16, minus 4 times a, that is minus 12, times c, which is minus 7, that's plus 84. And by the time you add it, you have it to be x is equals to minus 4 plus or minus square root of 100 over 6. So square root of 100 is already 10, and that helps us to break this further. And we have minus 4 plus 10 over 6, or minus 4 minus 10 over 6. And finally, we get the solution of x to be 1 or minus 7 over 3, because minus 14 over 6 is the same thing as minus 7 over 3. Okay? So after several years of using this usual quadratic formula, I was able to come up with a new quadratic formula, so which I don't think if there's any specific name for it, so I just think since it works, it's worth sharing. So given the quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, we have the new quadratic formula. X will be equals to 2c, everything divided by minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. So you can prove it. Do it yourself. You can prove this from this, okay? Yes. If you have any issue, you can get in touch with me at the comment section of this video. Yes, this is working. It's valid, okay? So in a mathematical sense, we could say provided the denominator is not equals to 0. But I can assure you, if you have a quadratic equation of this form, this formula, which I call the new quadratic formula, works. It works perfectly, okay? So we use it to solve these questions. Question 2, 5x squared minus 3x minus 2. And by the time we impute this, you can see we input the c, we input the b, we input the a, we have this. And we're able to get the result. After further simplification, you can see now minus 4, 3 plus or minus 7, minus 4 over 3 plus 7, or minus 4 divided by 3 minus 7. And finally, we get x to be minus 2 over 5 or 1. So we conclude that x is minus 2 over 5 or 1. So for information, you can verify the results using the usual quadratic formula or any of the other method we have discussed in the previous video. So thank you for watching this and I would like to share with you some exercise which I think you can do on your own using the new quadratic formula. So you can check that on your own, and I know you'll find it interesting. So thanks for watching. Press like, share, and subscribe for the next video if you haven't done that. Okay, thank you. Bye.